as I tune in and I desire to feel something to communicate to you, which would be of power and of truth, I think it would have to be inspired from something that just happened recently. People are going crazy over this virus thing. A lot of emotions and minds butting heads because these beings do not have enough self-awareness, enough emotional intelligence, enough self-mastery to have a conscious conversation, to communicate their feelings and to empathize with another and to connect and understand and come to a peaceful, harmonic resolution between both parties, or however many parties are involved. And I think as we move forward into the new world, the true world, the new earth, to hopefully a better society and world where our collective consciousness is raised and expanded, we have a deeper sense of what it means to be a human being. Being able to have a conscious conversation is something that is super important, not only in your own life, to understand your own state of being and to communicate effectively, but to also improve your relationships with one another, whether it's your friends or your family or coworker. This video will be helpful for you. I hope my mic is on. Yes, my mic is on, thank God. But conscious communication or conscious conversation. Before I begin, it's important to understand that we are always communicating to another, whether we realize it or not. It's like Gandhi, he said, "My life is my message." His life is his message. His very being was his message. And whether you realize it or not, you're always communicating, you're always teaching, you are always learning. And so this body vehicle, this mind body, is a communication device. And so the problem with most human beings, because they don't have the consciousness level to comprehend what it really means to be alive, they identify with the conditioning of their mind, their thoughts, their beliefs, their stance as an ego, as a personality. And when you come from that level, it becomes one mind against another mind. I'm right and you're wrong. Especially in arguments, you see it between Democrats and Republicans, people pro-life and pro-birth or whatever. I don't even know what they call it, but just various mental ideologies that butt heads, trying to prove that their stance is right and the other stance is wrong. And you just need to look at it in your own life. The next time an argument happens, whether it's yourself and you're triggered, or whether you're trying to communicate something to someone and it's not getting through, and there's anger involved, or if you see it on TV or see it at work or what have you, just pay attention of how it's one mind versus another, how it's one belief or a stance or a perspective against another. And this is why, doing spiritual inner work is so important, because we are not the mind. We are not the mind. We are consciousness. The mind is a tool. So learning to take that higher perspective, learn to step back from the situation, from the particular argument or conversation, if it's getting a little bit heated, is an essential skill in being able to have a conscious conversation. Because when you identify, what normally happens is people identify with minds, and then it becomes this ego, this battle of egos, and it's really a messy thing to be involved in. If you get the chance, notice it in your own life, because it's quite interesting to observe when you actually see an ego fight an ego, and you're just like coming from your spiritual place within you, just like, oh my God, So we're not mind. We are the observers of mind. We're consciousness. And so to be able to have a conscious conversation requires you to understand that you're not the mind, even though you're trying to convey your perspective to communicate particular feelings that are valid, because no one can say that I'm not angry or feeling a certain type of way. How we feel is how we feel, okay? And that's what we're trying to express through communication. This is how I'm feeling, and I hope that you realize that. I'm afraid, or I got hurt, or what you did made me feel this way, or I do this because I feel this way. You know, all these various ways to try to communicate how we feel. But when that gets filtered through the limited aspect which is our minds, and we come from the level of ego, that's when we begin to take our feelings personally, and that's where the trouble starts. Because now what most people do is they play the blame game. You did this, which is why it's making me feel this way. You did this, you did this, you did this. And they're both pointing fingers at each other. And that gets nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Just look at politics. And, you know, most of the time, because you're playing the blame game, no one likes being blamed, both parties end up getting hurt. Feelings get involved, tensions rise, people blow up and get triggered, and nothing productive or progressive happens. So that's no fun. Yeah. So here are a few tips to have a conscious conversation. You need to listen to understand, not listen to respond. You need to listen to understand and not listen to react. Most people, they just listen and they react. And so when it becomes a kind of like who's the loudest, and whoever's the loudest wins, I see it in my daily life all the time, which is, I suppose, why I've mastered it to a sense, because I'm just like, I can't do any of that, so no. I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna be the change. So you need to listen to understand, meaning try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Try to see how their perspective is valid, how their feelings are valid, and that puts you on equal ground to move forward and upward together, rather than belittling their perspective to raise your perspective so that you feel better about yourself. Each party is communicating their feelings, and they're communicating their truth. You know, so there's absolute truth, and then there's, you know, our individual truths, our own perspectives. This is how we see things. This is how we feel. This is the way we are perceiving and experiencing and seeing reality through the filter of our conditioned mind. So that's for most people anyway. So understanding that, you know, creating empathy for the other, to step into their shoes and to see where they're coming from, is an important skill. Because when you understand how someone feels, then you're like, okay, I understand how you feel. You understand how I feel. What do we want to do now? Where do we want to go together? What reality do we want to co-create? That creates opportunity, rather than closing the door on another because they have a different perspective than you. So I think I wrote a couple tips down. Let me see. I know Get your emotions out of the way. That is difficult for most people because they identify with the ego and the personality and the body, and so they don't have any emotional intelligence. They don't realize, oh, I'm angry, and so I don't want to feel angry, so I'm gonna stop being angry. Like that's a skill that takes time to master, but it is entirely possible. I learned that for myself when I got so angry I punched a wall and I broke my knuckle. And from that day onward, I'm like, anger isn't worth it. I need to have self-restraint and control myself, because ain't nobody trying to break no knuckles no more. So get your emotions out of the way, especially those negative, like, really, I know it can be hard because for some people that don't have emotional intelligence or self-mastery, they can get triggered, and when a triggered is pulled, the bullet's gone. Like, it's done. The energy is projected out there, and it's going to hit something. So it's good to practice meditation, because that allows you to disidentify from the mind and your emotions and your body, and ground you in the dimension which is consciousness, and that space is what allows you to have mastery over reality. The more space that there is, you can choose to respond to reality in the way that is aligned to you, rather than being a constant trigger and a reactive force to reality, because you're not a victim. So there's that. Get your emotions out of the way. And it's important to speak, not to attack. Again, it goes back to the whole blame game and the you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. But yeah, I'm not really sure how to teach these skills apart from a soul being so motivated to change themselves, that they go about doing this work. So I suppose this is for you if you're ready, as always. But yeah, that's just a few tips on how to have a conscious conversation. I guess that's the end of this video. Yeah, check the link, or check the description box below if you want to follow me, connect, and stuff like that. I have a podcast, social media, and if you want to dive deeper into yourself and you really want to master yourself, like really, really master reality and come from the highest consciousness possible, the highest place of being possible, and you want to master your mind, master your emotions, master life, check out Alignment Academy. It's a place where I teach my signature program. I teach you how to master yourself, and it's just great. It's what I live every single day. So see you in the next one. Bye.